You're listening to The Affiliates, a podcast that features stories of entrepreneurs and young leaders who are changing the world for better every single day. My name is Alok Rathore, and I'm a film producer best known for projects such as Choice and The Doorbell. I'm sitting down with leaders to talk about their process, the lessons they've learned, and how to make an impact. In this episode, Kalie talks about her experiences at Microsoft, the concept of power of people, and her desire to bring positive change in Reno, Nevada. Welcome to the show, Kalie.
Thank you so much for having me.
Great. So, what's your story?
Yeah, so to give you a little bit about my background and my upbringing, I really had quite essential Las Vegas upbringing. Have you been to Las Vegas before?
No, I haven't actually. I planned a couple of times, but it didn't work out.
That's okay. Yeah, no, it's interesting because it's one of those really unique cities, right? I mean, um, it's a 24-hour town, and I grew up really with both parents working in the service industry during the mega resort era. So when the big casino resorts like MGM were starting to pop up, my parents separated when I was young, and my mom raised my sister and I primarily, and we bounced around from one apartment complex to the other. Um, and looking back, I noticed how she worked such late hours. She was serving tables at the Las Vegas Hilton, and she really showed me the importance of hard work. But I don't think as children, my sister and I realized how odd it was to be getting ready for bed when she was just getting ready to go into work each night.
Yeah.
Um, but like many others, I think that grew up in that environment, that was our normal. So naturally, I grew up quickly from that experience.
Right. And I think, going through such an experience, as you said, not only teaches the importance of hard work, but it also sort of becomes like, something to look up to when you understand, like, the rationale behind those things. I mean, for me, I would always like, consider my dad to be like, not a good family person because he was always working and, my mom would like keep asking him to let's go on a holiday and like, let's spend some time with kids and all of that. And he would always say like, no, we cannot do that. And, I have work to do and I have the business to grow. So,
Yeah.
I grew up thinking that, my dad doesn't care for my family. Looking back now, it makes sense that okay, because the business was growing and he couldn't afford to go on big vacations, and my mom kind of understood that, but she also felt that a father needs to be more with his kids also. So like on like there were a couple of incidents where my dad would ask me, okay, remind me which grade are you in, and I'm like, you're supposed to know that.
Right.
But then looking back, I saw that okay, because he was working so hard to like grow our family business. That's the reason why I can like now uh, look up to him and say that okay, it's his hard work and persistence that really set an example for me. So I can now try to model that in my behavior. But it's really good to know that you grew up in that environment and you understand the importance of it now. So that's
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
so. How did your education play a role in helping you develop a career?
Yeah, sure. So I had great grades growing up. In college was always something I knew I would be going to. I know my mom really pushed that, it's not even an option not to think about. But I really struggled with understanding why so many of my classmates were not even interested in applying for college. So I saw so many people really kind of left behind in terms of education. But again, growing up in that 24-hour city environment, it was so easy to be young and have access to high earning potential at such a young age. Um, for me, I was really fortunate to receive a scholarship, and I attended the University of Nevada.
Right.
Um, the University of Nevada is here where I'm at now in Reno. It's 500 miles north of Las Vegas. a misconception I often hear is, oh, is Reno, is that a 20-minute, an hour drive? And I'm like, oh no, it's really more like a 7-hour drive from Las Vegas. But anyways, there I was, 18 years old. I moved to Reno to study business and communication. It's funny because one of those first moments of self discovery is I was taking business courses. And as I was giving presentations, I realized, oh my gosh, this is a problem. I would stand at the podium and my voice would quiver, my hands would shake. And I thought, if I'm ever going to be successful in a business environment, I really need to learn to control my public speaking, right? So like I said, I started taking communication courses and learned a lot about my delivery and my communication style. And really my final year of school, I was really lucky. By chance, I found out an opportunity with Microsoft. They were hiring interns, and this was at a time when Nevada and the nation was just hit with the recession. And so we were still recovering from a really poor unemployment rate. And I saw that Microsoft was hiring. And I thought, wow, I have to land this. And I set up pre interviews with employees of the company, and I asked questions. And I thought, how can I really leverage my skill sets to stand out and shine when so many people are applying for this role? And at that time, Microsoft was really the only tech company that had a presence here in Reno. So I landed that, and it was a fantastic 7, 8 years at the company. But you have to remember, I started the company back when Microsoft was really operating in silos, and the company as a whole was kind of struggling with its identity.
Yeah.
I would say in 2014, when the company hired Satya Nadella as CEO, you know, I noticed, he had one goal in his mind, and that was to ignite change and inspire people and organizations to achieve more. And it really landed well with the company. And it sounds like, kind of a fancy tagline, but the synergy of his leadership and how he strategically facilitated changes within the organization really brought a newfound meaning and purpose to the organization. And I point this out because, the notion of bringing life or bringing meaning to an organization requires deep reflection. And a trend that we're hearing about in the top Fortune 500 companies is really adopting that growth mindset. Are you familiar with the growth mindset?
Yeah, I am.
Okay, fantastic. And it's really where we learn to individually learn and work on ourselves, but also promote learning as a team so that organizations can compete in the future. And really, that was a breath of fresh air to have more of an experimental mindset and challenge the status quo. And it compelled me to further my formal education as well. And that's when I started my graduate studies at Harvard. So in a rare twist, my education played a role in my career, but then my career also really encouraged me to continue learning academically as well.
And that's a perfect synergy that, if your education can build your career and then your career could inspire you to go back to school, that's, I think, in my opinion, a perfect synergy, because that has been a case with me as well, where fresh out of college, I was hired by JP Morgan, and I was working in investment banking. And I was having fun, as like, I mean, the job was stressful, of course, like, investment banking is never fun, but there was always, like, something to learn. Of course, I was using my business education in understanding deeper and deeper how, like, the investment banking industry works, and what is a pitch book, and what do you mean by deal volume, and gave me an understanding of how the formal concepts of accounting and finance and valuation are applied in real life. But at the same time, it got to a point where it was like, a very difficult job in terms of working hours. So I used to work out of Mumbai office, and then sometimes we have to work with New York bankers. So then I would have to work night shifts, and that began taking a toll on my health. But you know, it's really great that you mentioned that you saw an opportunity at Microsoft and you were able to work with the company for 7, 8 years, and then be part of the change that we have seen in the identity over the years. And that really, captures the essence of leadership in a way that a true leader or a good leader really understands these concepts, and then he, like, motivates people that work for him to achieve that vision. And that's awesome, because not many companies are able to do that. Because I remember Microsoft was going through a tough time when they acquired Nokia, but that deal
Mm-hmm.
didn't in their favor, and they were struggling to make a mark in the tablets market and things like that. I know this because my family is into electronics distribution, so we would hear these things from the suppliers that okay, the demand is up, demand is down, and things like that. But Microsoft has such fond memories. Like, the word itself brings so many fond memories from my childhood, because my first ever computer was Windows 95.
Yep.
And I remember how possessive I was, and like I wouldn't let my sister touch it, and all I did was just play games. And it was 4 MB RAM and 20 GB hard disk. So it's
I
hard to
love
believe
it.
that, that was only, let's say, like, 15 years back. Yeah, it's truly fascinating, because we have managed to, like, grow more in past 50 years than we have done in past 50 million years. And that just goes on to show how much technology has changed our life in general. And that's why it excites me to see what prospects future holds for us. So fingers crossed. Hopefully AI will not kill all of us. How has the people around you, specifically your friends and family, inspired you?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So, just on the Microsoft side of things, I've really learned from the best. I mean, there's way too many people to name who've had an impact on me personally and professionally. Um, One person in particular, Cindy Healy, she was my first manager at Microsoft. And she's really someone I've looked up to. She's inspired me for taking bold, calculated risks. And she's just been a long term mentor of mine. And even till this day, I still feel re energized every time I speak with her. So, huge, so when you say who inspires me, she's again someone that inspires me really regularly, and I'm excited to hear what's new with her and how she's always moving forward and inspiring others. At the local level, I'm really fortunate to live in such a friendly and inviting community. Here in Reno, Nevada, our economy is really diversifying and it's having a positive impact on the quality of life. So the greater Reno, Sparks, Lake Tahoe area is really growing. Um, and just to give you an idea, big companies like Tesla and Switch, Apple and Patagonia have brought new business here. So they're bringing business functions to our area. And like I said, it's diversifying our community. And what's really fantastic is just seeing um, the growth. It's about seeing the leadership in the community. I mean, business leaders, elected officials, they're really engaged and they're accessible. And I think that's important to residents. And, it's also important to realize that this tremendous growth also puts a strain on resources. And we have to be conscious of that as well. And that's really what's compelled me to run for local office.
Right. And I've never had someone on my show who has run for an office. So my next question to you then is that, what makes a great candidate if he is running for an office? Like, what truly sets someone apart when they're running for office?
I think it matters who you ask, right?
Yeah.
Luckily, the office of the county recorder isn't really it's not partisan in nature. So I'm not running on a policy platform or anything like that. I think in general, what makes a good candidate, I think it's someone who's authentic and genuine. It's important for voters to know who they're voting for. So it's being open, it's being transparent, and also, having the strengths and the story and the plan. What is it you want to achieve in that office? And that really helps others support you in that race. So when I look at who I'm voting for, it's always, is this someone that, has our best interest? Is this someone that I could support because I know that they're going to do the right thing in office? But of course, I think that answer will change for with everyone you ask. So
But I think that's a good measure of, like, voting someone, because um, I, certainly feel that, because people's opinion are so polarized when it comes to choosing a political candidate, that it's important that, at least you make sure that the person that who you choose to vote is transparent, authentic, and has the community's best interest in mind. Because you know a lot of times people like I mean, party politics is kind of like the thing these days, where, like, people just want to badmouth the other side and put their perspective forward. Like, the larger interest of the people that they're working for gets lost in that argument. And I feel that it's we need leaders who can understand this point of view and then work towards it. And I think, based on whatever you've said so far, I think that, like, makes you stand out in itself, because to even have that awareness and then have the strength and courage to deliver on that, I don't think a lot of people can do it. But I think your background and your upbringing and your understanding and your experiences kind of sets you up for success in that way.
thank you.
How would you say is your leadership style different than others?
Oh gosh, yeah. Everyone just has, um, everyone's passionate about something else. I guess um, we all have our own passions, right? Our own outlook on life. For me, when I think of my leadership style, if you ask people I've worked with, I truly just believe in the power of people, the power of teamwork. There's something so powerful in knowing that we're all on this planet together, right? And at the same time, it's really neat. And I just feel a responsibility to build my team up, really by leading with purpose, developing them for success in their future. And I do that by trying to take practical steps to create psychological safety. And that's creating and really encouraging participation, being approachable, and demonstrating a tolerance for failure, right? Because that's how we learn from our experiences. And I think there are some underlying emotional intelligence capabilities there that I don't think all leaders or managers really use during their day to day activities. Um, you mentioned culture earlier, and I think that's something that every leader should really be invested in. It's building out the culture and leading with what you want that culture to be in your organization, because it does have effects with everyone you surround yourself with. So really leading, knowing and keeping that in mind is really important. And again, the power of people and developing that team really has an impact on your entire organization, whether you're in local government or you're working at a top Fortune 500 firm. It's very important to keep aware of.
I couldn't agree more with that, because as a business owner, like, that's one of the challenges that every business owner faces, because the culture that you allow to, or maybe, like, the culture that you set up in your organization really determines the long-term success or failure of the organization. Because of course, power of people is something that everyone should invest in and take care of, because ultimately it's the people that you have to deal with, and it's the people that you will have to work with. A lot of times, especially in the startup area, because people, once they start seeing the first few successes, they begin to cut corners in hopes of, like, getting a certain funding or approaching a certain big customer. And I think while that might give you that short term contract or the success in short term, you will not survive in the long term, because the culture that you are developing in your company is very toxic. So I think culture, of course, really plays a role in how you set yourself up for success in long term. And yes, power of people is something that I believe truly sets you apart. Because I mean, look at Amazon for that matter. It's such a customer centric company that it thinks everything that it does in terms of the customer experience, and that in itself has made it this, like, giant organization that it is, and still continues to grow in different avenues. So I mean, I've also I mean, even for Microsoft that goes, because uh, it was kind of a bit scattered, like, a few years back, and it was really struggling to have an approach that really connects with people. After Satya Nadella came on board, I think, like, he was able to put all of that together, and then uh, reconcile everything towards a common goal and vision. And that's really fantastic, because now I feel that connect again with the brand that I had when I was a kid. And I think that's why it's important that you establish a culture that can work towards that goal.
Absolutely.
What kind of impact would you like to see your work have on people?
Yeah, well, I think just, coming off of the next question too, it's, I really hope to leave a legacy behind of, you know, taking taking bold risks, but also inspiring others to achieve their greatness, whatever that may be. There are so many lessons to be learned in everything that we do, and um, how it aligns with your future goals. Right? It's really important. You may not everyone will have their 10-year, 15-year, 20-year plan, career development plan nailed down, but um, it's how do you continue to grow and learn as a person that will set you up for future successes. So for me, it's being a part of that and helping build others around me up and helping them identify how they want to be leaders in their areas of focus and help them achieve more.
And I think that's very well said, because, I certainly identify with the idea that a job of a leader is to develop more leaders, and that it collectively leaves a positive impact on the community and leaves behind a legacy on which people can build on. And that's exactly, like, what I tell my parents. They keep asking me to get married, and I'm like, I'm 27, I'm okay. Like, get married eventually, don't worry. But because they are Indian parents, they are like, you're already late by 3 years. So but I tell them these things, that okay, like, okay, I'm building a legacy, and I'm building an organization that will, like, live behind positive things, and that takes a lot of dedication and discipline. And I'm at a stage where, like, things are kind of paying off, in the sense that everything that I worked uh, for past 2 3 years, I'm now seeing, like, the positive effects of it unfold now. So, like, be it my films that are, like, doing,
Mm-hmm.
or be it this podcast that, like, is adding more listeners with every episode. So it's now all, like, kind of um, turning successful based on the efforts that I've put in so far. And I try to explain them, and sometimes they're like, yeah, but then what's even a podcast? We don't know. You should.
I think it's wonderful what you're doing, Alok. I've listened to several of your other podcasts before me, and it's been really inspiring to hear how others have moved up in their organization and their careers, and what their plans are as well. So no, I think you've done a great job at connecting with people across different lines of business and bringing them all together to share their story. And stories are really what's so impactful, and it's what makes us relatable to other people. So no, I think you've done an excellent job at showcasing your podcast and bringing others to inspire others. Really.
Yeah, I think you need to tell this to my parents now, because then they'll consider it seriously. truly appreciate it. And I've always said that, I invite only those people on the show who have personally been my inspirations. And I'm not being pompous about it, that okay, I call the shots, and only those people who inspire me are able to come on the show. But in general, I see myself surrounded with people who are creating such deep impact in their communities. And I feel that if I can somehow, give them an audience and take their stories to more people, then collectively we are, amplifying that positive impact. Like maybe listening to your episode might, inspire someone to execute on the dream that they've been, planning for a long time. Who knows? So
Yep.
you never know how it could impact others, and that's the reason I do it, because uh, people are doing such amazing stuff around me that I feel compelled to share their story with larger audience. And you fit the glove perfectly. So being a political candidate, is it difficult? Like, is it more difficult being a woman and a political candidate?
I mean, it doesn't matter what you do and what role, whether you're a political candidate or whether you're interviewing for a job, you're going to have people who, are going to critique you and criticize you just because you wore red today or just because they don't like your shoes, right? As a woman, I think, and a mom at that, I think sometimes it's easy to pass judgment. So that's something that I think women do have to battle and really overcome some of those challenges. I think in ways men have similar battles on their own as well. If you're an older white guy right now, people may be easy to judge as well. So for me, it's not focusing on those negatives. It's really focusing on what do I have to offer? How do I bring my strengths, and how do others bring their strengths to the table? Because that's really what we should all be focused on, not the negatives, and not those unconscious biases that we all have. We really need to acknowledge those and put those aside so that we can move forward.
Right. And I think that's very well said, because, a lot of people can get demoralized or bogged down by the idea that, okay, because people perceive me a certain way, maybe I'm not, cut out for this role. Women are subject to more biases and judgments than men usually are. So let's say, someone in your position, in certain areas, it could be considered that, okay, she used to work at a tech company and she's a mom. Why does she want to be a, why does she want to run?
Right.
I'm not sure if that has been the case with you or not, or people has said that or not. I hope not. But then a lot of people might think about these things. Whereas if it's the guy in the same position, he's like, oh, look at him, how dynamic he is, and he wants to make more impact in the community. So, I mean, and as you said, of course, guys have their own challenges as well. But in general, I feel that, the world is slightly more unfair towards women. Uh, but it's great that, you are aware that we should focus on positives and what you are bringing on the table, and how can you make a difference rather than, getting caught up in these details. That's a great lesson for, a lot of people, because I sometimes see a lot of people around me get so worked up by these things that won't even matter in long run, but it just stops them from taking that first step. And that's why I always encourage people around me that unless it happens with you, don't assume things. It's really great that you are setting that example for a lot of people, certainly for me, because next time if I think of like a project that seems a bit radical, I'll be like, it wouldn't be so bad.
No. You call me anytime, Alok.
Yeah, yeah, sure, of course. And I'm like, after talking to her, I'm certainly more now interested in going to Las Vegas.
You have to stop over in Reno. We'll take you around the city and take you up to Lake Tahoe. We'll have a great time.
Looking forward to that. Great. So to bring everything together, what's next? What are the exciting projects or ideas, or that you're currently working on, and what can people expect from you going ahead? You are campaigning for a positive change in local government, and You are leading it with such energy and passion, and it comes across in everything that you do. It certainly connected with me when I saw all the work that you've been doing and going through your story and understanding where you come from. But I hope that more people turn out and more people vote for a positive change in the government, and they understand your vision and your perspective. And I just hope that your campaign is a success and it goes from strength to strength. And I'll be waiting for November 6th to find out the result.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that.
You've been listening to The Afflatus. If you like what you have heard, do us a favor and share the episode with your network on social media. It helps. If you would like to know more about the show or share your opinion on the episodes, connect with us on facebook.com/unciafilms. That's facebook.com/unciafilms. If you would like to support the crowdfunding campaign of my latest film, The Doorbell, then click on the link mentioned in the description. Even a single dollar helps. Thank you so much for listening to The Afflatus.